to give a round of applause.
Two dueling visions of America that will come into focus later today. Military artillery will roll through the streets of Washington, D.C., you see it on your screens now, to celebrate the U.S. Army's 250th birthday, which also just happens to be President Trump's 79th birthday. And across the country, more than 2,000 No Kings protests will take place in cities from coast to coast. The flagship rally starts later this morning in Philadelphia. It comes on the heels of a week where citizens across the country have already mobilized in opposition to President Trump's immigration raids. The coalition of No Kings organizers have a simple message. Quote, "The flag doesn't belong to President Trump, it belongs to us. On June 14th, we're showing up everywhere he isn't to say no thrones, no crowns, no kings." Joining us now, Leah Greenberg, co-founder of the group Indivisible that's helping organize No Kings protests, and Beverly Harvey, founder and group leader of Indivisible Kansas City and an organizer of the No Kings rally in Kansas City, Missouri. Beverly, I want to start with you because, you're in a red state. I'm curious,
yes.
How hard or easy was it to get people to say they're going to stand up in this No Kings protest today?
I'll tell you what, we started this back in February. We had a big presentation right across the street at the community church. We had so many people show up, they had to lock the door. So even though we're in a red state, there's a lot of people, whether they're red, blue, whatever, that are showing up.
Leah, Elise Jordan here. President Trump has called the protesters who are turning out to the No Kings and to other rallies around the country's paid protesters, troublemakers, part of a foreign invasion. Who are the men and women that you are seeing at these protests?
I'll tell you what, they're every day. Oh,
those claims are those claims are just transparently ridiculous. The folks that we work with, they are regular people all over this country who understand that politics and democracy, it's too important to leave up to the politicians. They are nurses, they are teachers, they are IT technicians, and they know they had to do something because they are watching our democracy under threat. They are watching our neighbors under attack, and they're standing up and they're saying we're not going to stand for it.
Hey, Beverly, I was just in your city the other day on my book tour in Kansas City, great city.
Awesome.
And as has been established, you are the founder of Indivisible Kansas City and doing the protest today. Listen to what President Trump had to say about what could happen to folks who show up here in Washington to protest the parade. And I'll talk to you about it on the other side.
We're going to be celebrating big on Saturday. We're going to have a lot of, and if there's any protester that wants to come out, they will be met with very big force. By the way, for those people that want to protest, they're going to be met with very big force. And I haven't even heard about a protest, but, this is people that hate our country, but they will be met with very heavy force.
Now, of course, the president is talking about the military parade here in Washington today. But you are a protester, and you're going to be among the thousands of people protesting around the country. What does it mean to you or say to you that the president of the United States is saying that if you protest, you will be met with, quote, heavy force?
That is so disgusting to hear a president of the United States send out the military against its own people. This has never happened in the United States. It should never have happened in the United States. We've got 40, 50, 60, 70, 80-year-olds that are coming out to protest. You're going to send the military, what, on grandma and grandpa? Really? I mean, it just doesn't, it makes no sense whatsoever. And I'll tell you, I'm a veteran, and there's going to be a ton of veterans here, and we are disgusted that the chief for the military is sending the military on us.
Beverly, you say you're a veteran. Tell us, which branch of the military and where did you serve?
I was in the U.S. Army back during the Vietnam era. I was a behavioral science specialist that counseled Vietnam vets when they came back. So I have served my country proudly, and it is disgusting that Trump wants to put the military on the city streets against, protesters. We have a right. We have a constitutional right to protest.
Well, and I've heard that protesters are concerned about surveillance, frankly, as the Trump administration overall is ramping up for more surveillance on Americans, whether they're protesters or not. Leah, is that something that protesters are concerned about, that they are being tracked if they participate in these protests?
We've heard some of those concerns, and what I would say overall is that we're all really clear that we're in a climate of escalating retaliation and repression. This is part of a broader agenda to crack down on any source of power who might stand in American society, who might stand against Donald Trump. They believe that they can bully us all into submission. Today is about showing them that they cannot do that we collectively are far more powerful than them, that real power is not staged in military theatrics in D.C. It rises up everywhere else in the country.
Beverly, one of the things that President Trump and other right-wing folks like to say when these protests crop up is that the folks doing them, quote, hate the country, right? That they it doesn't make any sense that these folks would do this for anything but hating the country. You are a veteran. You have talked about it quite a bit. You're talking to all of these folks. Dispel the president and anyone else who thinks that you guys hate this country. Dispel them of that notion.
Well, I'll tell you what, like I said, I served my country. We have a ton of veterans that are actually in our group and are in other groups. There's probably 5 or 6 other protests that are going to go on today. We love our country, and that's why we're protesting, because we want to save it from someone who wants to be a king. We're not going to have a king in this country or a monarch or a dictator. It's not going to happen. And we're going to stay out here and protest and protest and protest until he's gone. Just recently, we had neo-Nazis here in Kansas City marching, and the governor didn't do anything about that, but yet he wants to send military troops on just regular American citizens. But he didn't do anything with the neo-Nazis that are here. So tell me, who really is for democracy?
And to Beverly's point, she's talking about, and this is from the Kansas City Star, the headline, Missouri governor activates National Guard ahead of anti-Trump protests. It says Governor Kehoe activated the Missouri National Guard. The Republican governor singled out Kansas City, St. Louis, and Springfield and other affected communities in Missouri where events were occurring or could occur that create hazards for people and property beyond resources of local officials. Leah, I want to bring up NBC News Decision Desk poll that shows that 64% of those polled say they oppose using government funds for the military parade. We see it there on the screen. So 64% of the American people don't want this to happen, and yet it's happening. Talk about how Indivisible is going to sort of counter the president's notion that what he's doing is something that apparently he believes is the height of patriotism.
Well, you're absolutely right. People don't want this military parade. They don't want money that's being taken from veteran services to be used to throw Donald Trump a birthday party. They do not want the National Guard in California. They're looking at all of this and they're saying this is massive, shocking overreach by a guy who seems to think he's a king. The best way that we show that this is not supported, that Donald Trump's base is actually a lot more brittle than he thinks it is the mass, widespread, peaceful protest. And
involve a president, a commander-in-chief who sees the entire chessboard and understands that we're living in a moment right now of unprecedented tension that he himself catalyzed. And this is the moment where you don't want to exacerbate those tensions with this massive, unprecedented show of force, but rather try to bring the country together. And you don't do that by rolling tanks down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Speaking of tensions that the president is stoking, this isn't new, right? What the president is doing, his rhetoric. Let's play what Donald Trump has said over the years in terms of his rhetoric and the violence that he seems to condone through his rhetoric.
Do you know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. That's true. Honestly, I hate to see that. Here's a guy throwing punches, nasty as hell, screaming and everything else when we're talking. And he's walking out, and we're not allowed, the guards are very gentle with him. He's walking out like big high fives, smiling, laughing. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees, I promise. These are anarchists. These are not protesters. They're bad people. They don't love our country.
Seeing that montage, Max, if you are not concerned about what could happen today, you're not really paying attention.
No, not at all. And look, it also strikes me that this military parade, this army parade, is Donald Trump's personality incarnate. Mm-hmm. Remember, this is a draft dodger. This is a guy who dodged the draft 5 times, made up personal ailments, physical ailments, so that he himself would not put his own life at risk while hundreds of thousands of other young men were doing exactly that. We all know he's actually never been in a fight himself, right? But loves to stand up with all his bodyguards around him, instigating others to get into a physical altercation. That's why he loves these tanks rolling down Pennsylvania Avenue on his birthday, because he's so insecure. It's always the insecure guy who talks like that. But, we are not seeing the country come together in a moment of strength. We're seeing it divided because he is pushing those very divisions for his own ego.
And the other thing that just gets to me and has gotten to me, frankly, since I was in college covering protests against the Vietnam War is they don't love our country.
Right.
That is no. You can't. The idea that he gets to define what love of country is. Those who were protesting the Vietnam War loved their country. They did not love what the country was doing at the moment. And the idea that if you protest against him, you don't love the country is, well, it's out of some dystopian authoritarian society. It's not out of the United States.
Applause to the organizers of these protests, the No King organizers, which you saw there in one of the clips, because they really did help focus the public on this. Because here's the thing. I don't think the public was ever going to love this parade. Let's be clear. Trump was deluded into thinking that by his own egotistical, demented brain, and maybe his sycophantic yes men and yes women around him. But, it was never going to be popular. But to be so reviled, sometimes you need protesters, you need organizers to focus the public on what's happening, why it's bad, and how you can stand up to it. And we saw that here. We did. Because the reason the parade is so unpopular is because people spoke out. Soldiers spoke out. Veterans spoke out. Retired generals spoke out. Politicians spoke out. And again, critically, you, the people, spoke out. That's what happened here. And that's why there was so many protests. And ironic, guys, thousands of people, but really more than that, because there were protests in other cities against this parade that was happening with Trump. So there wasn't only protests in the actual location of the parade, but protests all over the country against Trump. That's special to see, and that's a sign that you guys are ready to keep resisting this totalitarian fool.